Today's daf we're going to be learning is Bava Kamma daf Kuf. This is the daf for Shabbat, Chodesh Adar, Rishon. I'm going to remind everybody that we have the Megillah challenge for those who want to learn Masechet Megillah in the month before Purim. We have a whole month of extra Adar in which you can learn it. We are going to be sending out WhatsApps daily with the links to the dapim. There'll be a siyum at the end, and it's a program also we're running in a bunch of high schools to encourage high school students to get excited about Gemara learning. So if you know of people who are interested, please pass this around. I definitely don't expect all Daf Yomi learners to have the time to be learning 2 dapim a day. So it's really meant a lot for people who are not learning the daf. Anyone who wants to is welcome to also learn the daf and also learn Megillah. But it's a great opportunity to get through all of Masechet Megillah before Chag Purim. So encouraging you all to join. Or again, either join or get your friends, family, other people who you think might get excited about learning Gemara. And maybe this is a good entry into first experience with learning to take up the Megillah challenge. You can find details on our website. We're going to start right now with Itmar at the bottom of Tzadi Terem Bet. Dinar l'shulchani v'nimtza. A shulchani is a money changer. So you go to a money changer and you check if the money is good or not, right? They want to check if it's counterfeit. So you show it to the shulchani, v'nimtza ra. And then the shulchani says it's fine, but it turns out it wasn't fine. So is the shulchani responsible? Tani Chada, one Braita says, umam patur hidyot chayav. And one says if they're an expert and this is their field, then they're actually exempt. Kind of they have immunity almost, sort of, so to speak. That's the uman, patur, and hidyot chayav. But if it's a regular person who's really not a money changer, but they stick themselves in the money changer chair and say, oh yeah, I'm a money changer. Here, show me your money. And it turns out they were a fraud, or, they kind of knew, but not really too much. So they're liable. Tani idach, there's a different braita that says, bein uman, bein hidyot chayav. But a different braita says it doesn't matter who does it. Either which way, they're chayav. It doesn't matter if they're an expert or not an expert. So Amar Papa, Kitani Uman Patul, Kigon Danku v'Isur, Delot Tzriche lemigmar klal. When it said Uman Patul, it was talking about a real expert, someone like Isur and Danku, which is kind of funny their names because Isur sounds like an Isar. There's an Isar, which is a type of coin, and there's also a coin called a Danka. And it's funny because now a Danka is with a kuf, not a kaf, but it does sound very similar. And these two guys were apparently experts in money changing. So those two guys are the currency experts. They have immunity basically because they really know everything. Well, obviously the Gemara is going to say, well, then how'd they make a mistake? But we're not going to hold them liable if somehow they make a mistake. But anyone under that, even if they're a regular money changer, but they're not super expert, then we're going to make them already liable. Ella b'may tau. Well, if they're experts, then how'd they make a mistake? Well, what we're talking about is there was a new currency that was just minted and they didn't know exactly, they weren't as familiar with it. So then we're going to exempt them. Now we're going to have a story. There was a woman, Achzia dinari la Rabbi Chiya. She showed a dinar to Rabbi Chiya, who apparently, we'll see from the continuation of the story, seems to be treated like an expert, like Danku and Isur. He said, oh, that's a really good coin. You can probably see where this is going. The next day, she said, listen, I gave it to someone and they said it was a bad coin. They wouldn't use it. They wouldn't take it in the store. And bisha, by the way, is a word you might know from it's called the Esek Habish, which is called the Lavon affair in Israel. It was a huge mishap that happened with the Mossad, caused the death of a whole bunch of agents. Anyway, you can read up about it, but it's called the Esek Habish because it was a huge failure. Bish is bad. Like this was a failure. This was a mess up. So she says this was a bad coin and they won't use it. Amalei Rav. So he says to Rav, Zil chalfe niale uktova pinkase din Esek Bish. Listen, go exchange it for her, give her a better coin, and write in my pinkas that this was a bad deal. Okay, but basically he's giving her the money for it. To which the Gemara asks, well, why are Danka and Isur exempt? Because they had learned as much as they really needed to learn in this field. They're not negligent because they didn't know enough. Likewise, Rabbi Chiya lav lemigmar kabai. He also didn't need to learn anymore. He knew everything. Rabbi Chiya, so they answer, and it's really, he should have been exempt, like Isur and Danku. But the Gemara is going to explain, lifnim meshurat hadin hu da'avid. He went beyond the letter of the law, which in and of itself is a whole interesting thing. And the Gemara is going to even go off. Keditani Rabbi Yosef, as Rabbi Yosef says in the following Braita. Now we're going to take a pasuk from Shemot Yudchet, which reads, "V'izharta ethem et hachukim ve'et haTorot." Okay, I warned you about the laws and the Torot. V'odata lahem et haderech, and I taught them the way, yelchuba, that they will, the path that they will follow, ve'et ha'maaseh asher yasun, and the actions that they will do. So now we're going to darshan all the words in the second half of that pasuk. V'odata lahem, and I will teach them. Ze beit chayehem. This means their source of life. So what does Rashi say that means? Talmud Torah, that's Talmud Torah. Okay, learning is the source of life. Some people say it actually means taught them to have a job, to have a sustenance, and that's what we mean by Beit Chayehem. So different interpretations here. Et haderech zog milu chasadim, the path is to do chesed. Yelchu zo bikor cholim, that's visiting the sick. Ba, right? This is et haderech yelchu ba. We're taking apart each phrase or each word, right? That they will go ba in this way. That's zokfura. Okay, these are all ways that we do chesed. There's general milu chasadim. There's visiting the sick, and there's burying people. Etamase. Now we have etamase asher yasun. Now this is a bit of a duplicate language, double language here, right? We could have just said etamase. What does it mean? Asher yasun, that they will do. So etamase is the hadin. This is judgment. Asher yasun zo lifnim meshurat hadin. So we learn with judgment, and then there's also lifnim meshurat hadin. Sometimes we go beyond the letter of the law, and that's what he did here. Another story with the money changer. Reish Lakish achvele dinari la Rabbi Elazar. So he showed a dinar to Rabbi Elazar. Hey, Reish Lakish. Amal ma'al yehu. So Rabbi Elazar examined the coin and said, "Oh, this is a good coin." Amar le chazi ta'alach kasmichna. So he says, I want you to know, Reish Lakish says to Rabbi Elazar, I'm relying on you about this. To which Amar le, Rabbi Elazar wants to understand what's the nature of this statement of Reish Lakish. He says, Ki samachta alai ma'ala meimra. Well, what are you adding by saying you're relying on me? You know, it sounds kind of like Reish Lakish thought that maybe Rabbi Elazar said it off the cuff, and now he's telling you, I'm relying on you and I'm going to hold you responsible. So Rabbi Elazar says what? If it's a bad coin, you think I'm going to exchange it for you? Why am I not going to do that? You're the one who said, Rabbi Meir hu dedain dina de garmi. You're the one who said that Rabbi Meir is the one who holds garmi, which means my love Rabbi Meir velos v'iralan kabate. Did you not mean when you said that statement that Rabbi Meir is the one who holds dina de garmi, but nobody else does, and we don't hold like him? Now, why is this garmi? Because you're going to indirectly cause me damage. Now, remember, garmi is somewhere in between indirect and direct. It's actually going to directly cause me damage. It's just you're not really doing an action. We're missing an action here. You're just telling me that the coin is good. Then I'm going to go accept this coin in a business deal, and then I'm going to have a loss because this coin really isn't good. So that's we're putting this in the category of garmi. And he says, what? Don't you hold against Rabbi Meir that we don't? I'm not liable for garmi. So I don't get why you're telling me that you're relying on me. To which Amar le, Reish Lakish responds, lo, Rabbi Meir usfir alan kabate. It's Rabbi Meir who holds that way. I agree. I did say that. But what I meant was Rabbi Meir holds this way and we hold this way. We paskin like Rabbi Meir. And that's why I'm going to hold you responsible. And that's why I said what I said. So now we want to know, hey, Rabbi Meir, which Rabbi Meir, where do we see that Rabbi Meir holds garmi? We're going to bring 4 sources. Some of them are said in the name of Rabbi Meir. Some of them are just stam Mishna. Okay, some of them there's a machloket in the Mishnah, but this is Tanakama, and we assume usually Tanakama, who's unattributed in the Mishnah, is often Rabbi Meir when he argues against other rabbis. So we want to figure out which Rabbi Meir is this. Elam or Rabbi Meir, and now they're going to say maybe it's the one who says, and we're going to bring source 1, source 2, source 3. Each time we're going to reject. Then we're going to finally get to a 4th source. We're actually going to find the source where Rabbi Meir holds garmi, and from here again we're going to get to a better definition about, or at least possible clearer definition about what garmi is. So ditnan, it says in a Mishnah, dan et hadin zikata chayav v'chiyev hazakai, or timet hatahol tiheret hatamit. So if you judge a case and you either make the wrong person the one who wins, or the one who won, the one who really, right, zikata chayav, you took the person who shouldn't have won and you made them win, or chiyevet hazakai, Or the one, again, we're talking about money here. So meaning money changed hands from the wrong person or money stayed in the wrong person's hands, right? Chiyevet hazakai. We'll get to Rashi in a minute. We'll see a little bit more detail about what this means. But so basically you convicted the wrong person. You said something was it was impure when it really was pure, or you said something was pure when it really was impure. What you did, you did, and you have to pay out of pocket. Now, this could be garmi because why? Well, you ruled that someone is supposed to pay somebody else something that they really weren't supposed to pay. So you caused a loss to that person by your ruling. That's kind of indirect. You didn't do anything with your hands. To which the Gemara says, wait, what are you talking about? It was said about this. This was direct. This wasn't indirect. Now, what does it mean you took it by hand? So let's read Rashi. Rashi is going to go through all 4 cases and explain what we mean here. Zikat chayav. Okay, so the person who was really responsible, you said, you don't have to pay. You said you get paid by the other person. Okay, so let's see what this is. Shahayalo mashkon the malve mimenu. So the mashkon had the malve, the loaner, had a collateral of this guy who was obligated. V'natal dayan lemashkon v'echziro lalove. And basically, he ruled and said that you have to return the mashkon because the guy, the borrower, already gave back the money when he really hadn't. So that's called lizakot et hayav. And what did he do? The judge went and basically took the collateral item from the house of the malve and gave it back to the love. So you see here, he's not only he operated as both the judge and the policeman, basically, who insisted on, who made sure the judgment happened. Chiyevet hazakai, what would that be? So you took someone who was actually innocent and you made them pay. Natal biyad mamon mina nitba v'shilem latoveh. So you took money from the defendant, right? From the guy who was defending himself, and you said, oh, you must be, you're in the wrong. Gave it to the one who was prosecuting him and said, you're right, but he was wrong. He wasn't really the one who was supposed to be paying the money. He wasn't supposed to pay the money at all. And yet he took the money out of his hand and moved it to the other person's hand. Timata taho. Now, this is really just a ruling. Just said someone's impure object was pure, someone's pure object was impure. So what kind of damage did you do with your hands? Which the Gemara Rashi comes up with an interesting explanation. The judge wanted to make a point and said, I am so right that this object is tameh. What I'm going to do right now is, in case you won't take my judgment, I'm going to throw a dead creepy crawler on it, which will make it 100% impure so that you won't doubt my judgment. And now it's definitely impure. So that would be something he does with his own hands. What about making something pure when it's really impure, but you can't say the same thing? Well, the guy comes to ask, is this tahor tameh? You say, oh, it's impure, it's pure, and it really was impure. Now, what did he do to show I'm so certain that it's pure? He threw it in a batch of pure other items. Now you have impure, it turns out it was impure. You have impure items that are mixed up with the pure ones, and everything now is in doubt. Which is impure, which is pure. So we ruined this whole batch of other person's stuff, and he did it with his own hands. So that's not garmi. Let's move to case number 2. Rabbi Meir, perhaps it's this one. Ditnan. Litzbo lo adom utzvo shachol. This we've seen already, and we're going to see this on the Mishna on Amabet today. You give someone your wool to dye red, and instead they dye it black. Shachol utzvo adom, black, and they dye it red. Rabbi Meir Rabbi Meir says, you acquire this, and therefore you pay. If I dyed it the wrong color, I pay the value of the wool. Now, what do you see here? I have to pay the damages, right? I have to pay. I'm basically considered like I stole it, and I pay the value. So I'm obviously liable. Now, they assume here that what happens, why is this garmi? Because when I dye something, it takes time. I put it in a pot, and then only over time does it become dyed. So that's already indirect. What's the problem? But I did it with my own hands. Can't say that's garmi. Garmi is not with my own hands. Can't be that. Rabbi Meir. Let's try option number 3. This in the next source, we're going to be talking about kilaim, which is I can't grow my vine next to your, okay, well, even next to my own, but here we're going to have 2 different people next to your wheat that's growing because they're going to grow together. It's going to be mixed breed, and we're not allowed to do that. So I basically ruined your crop. So the Mishna says, "Hamisakech gafno al gabei tfuato." So it must be this. Okay, I think I might skip the words halakha Rabbi Meir. It must be this Rabbi Meir. Ditnan, as it says in the Mishna. "Hamisakech gafno al gabei tfuato shel chavero." I take my vine and I spread it out over, right? The vine grows horizontally. I spread it out on top of your wheat. Now, there's no kilaim right away because it takes time, just like in the previous case, for it to grow together. So harezet kidesh v'chayav. You kidesh, the concept, the word kidesh here is used in the Torah as you made a mixed breed here, okay, and you ruined it. V'chayav, and I have to pay damages to you because I did it to your grains. This also is a garmi because, again, even though it takes time for it to happen, but I did something with my own hands, so I'm obviously going to be liable according to everybody. Ela ha Rabbi Meir. So it must be this fourth opinion of Rabbi Meir. This is going to be the final answer. Netanya. We have a wall in between my vineyard and your crops. Omerlo, turning out I'm a bet, Gedol, you say to me, put up the fence again because, okay, Rashi talks about this whole echami matayim. If it's less than 1 to 200, then it's fine. But if it's more than 1 to 200, the ratio, it's going to ruin the wheat. So, okay, without getting into the percentages, really, basically, the owner of the grains says to the owner of the vineyard, fix the fence so that your vine doesn't grow into my wheat. Okay, why is it the responsibility of the owner of the vine? Two different opinions are given. One is because vines grow sideways more so than the grain, and that's more the problem. The other opinion is that any vine, the owner has 4 cubits of space around it that's really given to him and there or her, the owner, and therefore the space right outside, which is where the fence is, really belongs technically to the vineyard. The first answer, I think, is a stronger one. So the owner of the field, let's say it's you, you could say to me, make sure to fix that hole in the wall, so the breach in the wall, so that my vine doesn't grow into your field. Nifritza, if it opens again, Omer lo gdor, you say, fix it up. Niti ashami menu v'lo gdara, if, right, he basically gives up and he doesn't do it. Okay, so if I don't deal with it, right, this happens a lot, people don't deal with things properly, either because they don't want to or because they just didn't get to it. And if they grow together now, so it ruins it, and I have to pay back damages to the person of their grains, that their grains are now ruined. So what do you see here? This is garmi, because now, what exactly defines this garmi? So there's a few things, okay? And again, this is why it's a little bit difficult to pin down what exactly garmi is. But there's, number one, it's clear the damage is going to happen, because if I don't fix that, definitely my vine is going to grow into your grains and cause a problem. That's number one. Number two, it's also that I didn't do it myself. In other words, but here I kind of did do it myself. And this is why they view my not fixing the wall. It's almost like an action. It's this in between. By my non-action, by me not taking action, it's almost as if I took action, because it's so obvious it's going to happen. These two kind of work together because it's clear it's going to happen. It's as if, right, I did a negligent action by not fixing my wall. So again, this is why it's in between direct action and grama, which is indirect action, because it's sort of, but not really. Okay, that's really what they generally say. I just want to say, right. So because I really didn't intend to deal with this, and I, nitya ashti, that's as if I've done an action, really. So inaction could sometimes be counted as action, which is an interesting concept in and of itself. Okay, now we're going to start, but again, not really, it's not fully action, then it would actually be direct. So what we proved here, again, was that Rabbi Meir is the one who holds garmi, and Reish Lakish actually held like him, not like Rabbi Elazar, who thought he didn't hold like him, and that's why Reish Lakish was going to hold Rabbi Elazar responsible for causing the damage. So summary until now, we had first the issue of a money changer. How responsible are they? In what case were they responsible or not if they make a mistake? Talked about the difference between someone who's really experienced versus anybody else. And then we had the case of Rabbi Chiya, who paid anyway, even though he was very experienced, he paid to be lifnim meshurat hadin, to go again, beyond the letter of the law. Then we had the story with Reish Lakish and Rabbi Elazar, which we just reviewed now. And from here, we're moving on to the next Mishna. Hanoten semer latzaba. So now, again, we have a dyer. This is a person who dyes the wool. And somebody comes into his store, his shop, his studio, and says, I want you to color my wool. And he burnt it in the pot. So we ruined the wool. That's case number one. No tenlo d'meit samro. Everybody agrees. Well, I'm not going to give you, let's say I'm the dyer. I'm not going to give you the ruined wool back. I obviously have to pay you the value of the wool. What if I did it? We're going to see exactly what this is in the Gemara, but I did a bad job. Okay, I dyed it the color you wanted, but I kind of didn't do a good job about it. We'll see exactly what this is soon. Well, then we evaluate. We have to see how much did I invest in it and what is it worth now? So let's say the wool itself was worth 100. I invest in it, which depending on different commentaries, it's either my time or it's my raw materials, or perhaps, which makes the most sense, it's a combination, my time and my raw materials. How much should I invest in this? And how much is it worth now? Let's say I invested 30 and it's now worth 40. Okay, it's worth 140 now, but you gave me the raw material wool. So now we're talking about what do you have to pay me for my work? So normally you'd have to pay me for how much it's worth now. It's now worth 140, so you'd have to pay me the 40. So if like in this case, it went up more than my expenses were, no because I messed it up and I didn't do a good job, you only have to pay me what I put into it for my time, right? Without any profit margin here and without matching the value of what it is now. But if I spent more than what it went up, which is possible because I did such a bad job, it could be I invested a lot of time, but it came out really bad. No tenlo et hasheva. Then I give you you pay me the sheva. Okay, you have to pay me whatever it is. You have to pay me the lower amount. So if I spent 40, but it only went up in value 30, you don't have to pay me any more than 30 because that's all you're getting. That's case number 2. Case number 3. Okay, those 2 cases, it's obvious with the halakha. Case number 3, there's going to be a machloket. By the way, just to point out, because we're going to talk about shinoi in a minute, there was no shinoi there. It wasn't koneh, where we would then say, all I have to do is return you the value. Let's say it was a theft case, but let's say we're going to compare it to a theft case, because I didn't really change it. I did what you wanted me to do, and I just colored it poorly, but I still did what you asked me to do. But in this case, and now we'll learn it better than we've seen it until now, which is I changed the color to the wrong color. Rabbi Meir says you're like a thief because as soon as you color it incorrectly, you're taking someone's object, you're doing the wrong thing with it, you're like a thief. So you basically acquire the item and now you just have to return its value. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda rules that this is just like the previous case. He doesn't think that you acquire it. Now, either because he doesn't really think you acquire it, okay, because he doesn't view you as a gazlan, and he says you just messed up the order, but still you're yado ala tachtona. We're going to treat you as, you're weaker because you did it wrong, but you're still going to get paid back, right? In other words, you'll have to give the item back to them. It's still their item that you colored, and you get just paid, but according to the lower amount, whichever one, either you get your expenses back, or you just get the shevach if it happens to be more than your expenses, and you won't cover all your expenses. But Rashi says it's not mikar hadin. It's not the letter of the law here that Rabbi Yehuda is saying. And look in Rashi for a minute. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, tikanis le dahai deshina liot yado ala tachtona. Rashi uses the word knas. We penalize you. If I colored it incorrectly, I'm getting a penalty for this. It's interesting because we saw this sugya before, and we actually put in the category of shogeg. I'm unwitting about this, but remember, shogeg, I'm partially responsible. I should have been more careful about listening to what exactly you wanted, and I didn't. So because of that, we penalize me. And what does he say, basically? Lo nitani mishivcha. What, we're going to let you benefit from what you put into this? No, I messed this up. We're not going to say to me, oh, keep that nice, he gave you wool, you dyed it, keep it. Just pay back the value of the wool. Well, what are you talking about? No way, no how. We're penalizing you. Give them the whole thing and get the lower price. Because what were you doing messing up on the order? As someone who is a customer, right? You feel like, yeah, that's true. I should be compensated for the fact that you messed up what I gave you to do. Okay, that's the Gemara. We're just going to finish the Mishnah. Now we're going to just finish up quickly with one last point. And the Gemara is going to make, my Ka'or, what is Ka'or? I told you we get to this. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Chana, Kalbus. Okay, that didn't really help us. My Kalbus, what is Kalbus? Didn't help the Gemara either, some of the later Amoraim. Amar Rabbi Bar Shmuel, Kafra Dude. Okay, what does this mean? This is the stuff that's left at the sides of the pot. That's what you dyed it with, okay, which is not really great dye. Didn't do a very good job. It didn't take well. That's what we're talking about. Okay, so that's it for today. So again, this Mishnah, to summarize this part, because we already summarized the previous, has 3 parts to it. Giving someone and they destroy it. Giving someone and they do a poor job, but they do what you asked, just not well. And then where there, it was clear what the halakha is in each case, but there's a machloket about what if I changed and did something good, but it wasn't what you wanted. So how do we view that? Okay, with that, we're going to finish for today. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom and Shavuot Tov and Chodesh Tov and B'sorot Tovot.